All right, we're back, and here we are bringing you a leaked interview with SBF, and it's not the one that's been going around the internet and the one that CoffeeZilla reported on, but there's another one that we're going to show you. And this leaked interview is coming to you on the day when SBF is being interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin at this New York Times event. And we're going to be trying to cross over. We don't know what time the talk is going to be at the New York Times event, but if it's at a reasonable time, what we'll do is we'll cross over. We know there's going to be some really big names there. Mark Zuckerberg's going to be there. Ben Affleck's going to be there. And then I think at the end of the day, listen to what Andrew Ross Sorkin says.
Here, Show 2 is going to be with us. We're also going to spend some time with Ben Affleck, who's starting a new movie studio, and a lot more. Mark Zuckerberg is going to spend some time with us as well. And then at the end of the day, and this is the one that I think a lot of people are waiting for, but also has created a lot of controversy. I'm going to be speaking with FTX founder and former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried. It will be his first live interview since the company collapsed. A lot of tough questions to be asked and hopefully answered about what happened there. Accusations, of course, of fraud, misrepresentation, mismanagement. And we're going to get into all of it. Nothing is off limits. And I should say, because I know there's been a lot of questions about it, it is going to be live streamed for free. Anybody can watch it. We're going to be putting out a link as planned a little bit later today. And of course, all of this will be available on CNBC as well. So,
all right, so we're going to be there live with you guys later today. He said it's going to be live. It's going to be free. We're going to be there with you live. I think it's going to be pretty late, but what the hell? You guys are family and we're going to do it. But he said also that that's the first interview that SBF has done. And while I'm impressed that Andrew Ross Sorkin is using words like fraud and stuff like that for the first time in a long time, we haven't heard the mainstream media use the word fraud and stuff like that. This is not the first live interview. In fact, there was a lady called Tiffany Fong who actually got SBF on the phone and did an interview with him a couple of days after the FTX collapse. Now, one part of that interview was published on CoffeeZilla, and another part of the interview wasn't really published. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through both parts of the interview. We're going to go through what's going on in SBF's mind, and we're going to ask some really tough questions. Remember that tomorrow I'm going to be live, and we're going to be streaming live. We're going to be streaming Mario's Spaces. And I think it's going to be the biggest Spaces event in the history of crypto, that's for sure. And we're going to have SBF live, and we're going to be able to ask him some tough questions. I am one of the speakers on that panel. So do me a favor, if you're here, first of all, smash a like button and subscribe to our channel, because remember our stream dropped off. So now we're bringing back the second part of the stream, and no one knows. Just like the content, help us get this content out there. Also, go to Mario's Twitter, follow the guy on Twitter, excellent guy. And also set yourself a reminder that because tomorrow we've got the SBF appearance, and it's going to be absolutely huge. So just be there. I think there's 25 or 30,000 people that are going to be there. Anyway, so let's get into it. Before we do though, please just smash a like button, help us get this out there. Really sorry about the sound issues, but here we are, and I'm back, and I'm bringing you crypto love, and I'm bringing you crypto wisdom, and we're going to go through this interview. We're going to start off with part one of the interview. She broke up the interview into two parts. Now, this is a phone call that she had with Sam Bankman-Fried. The phone call was on the 16th of November. Now, there's a couple of parts of this thing that we need to go through just to understand what SBF was thinking and how SBF was thinking. And the first part of it starts over here, and it talks about the alleged backdoor into the FTX system. Remember that it was alleged that he had a backdoor into the FTX system where he could manipulate the books to hide the loans to Alameda. Let's listen to what he said.
There was something about a backdoor that allowed you to execute commands that could alter the company's financial records without alerting others that this was put in place. I think that was a Reuters article, which made it seem like you secretly were moving money in the background.
Wait, and this is something that I would be doing?
It kind of said that SBF put like a secret backdoor so that he was moving funds to Alameda and it was undetected. Like this was something that you put into place potentially. I mean, that's how it read.
Well, that's interesting. So that I can tell you is definitely not true. I don't even know how to code. Is the honest, embarrassing answer. I certainly wasn't like building some backdoor in the system. I could barely use the system. That's not true. I use the system pretty well from a user interface perspective, but I literally never have opened the code.
So, I mean, the first thing he says is, look, I didn't even know how to code. I didn't put a backdoor in the system. Now, that's obvious that you didn't put the backdoor in the system because we know you're not a coder. But the question should have been, do you know who would have put in a backdoor? Were you aware that there was a backdoor? Obviously, we don't think that you coded it because you're not a coder. So that's one way that Sam Bankman-Fried is escaping the truth or trying to back out of the truth. All right, then there was the next question here around the Alameda balance sheet. And listen to what he says around the Alameda balance sheet.
Balances on FTX by a fairly large number, an embarrassingly large one. And it was because of a very poorly labeled accounting thing, which was a historical artifact of a time before when from before FTX had bank accounts. And the result of that was basically there was a time way back yonder when people would wire money to Alameda and then ask to be credited on FTX. That just basically never got screwed up. And that was a pretty big miss and meant that Alameda was substantially more levered than I thought it was. I don't know.
So he's saying, look, the reason why Alameda was much more levered is because in the past, there was, before FTX had a bank account, people used to put money into Alameda. But again, we know that's false because even towards the end, when you would deposit money into FTX, you would actually be depositing money into Alameda's bank account at Silvergate Bank. And that was till days before the FTX collapse. All right, then he spoke about the FTT token and taking leverage against the FTT token. Because what you remember is that part of their balance sheet, or the reason why Alameda could get so much leverage off FTX is because they were staking the FTT tokens which they had. So they had this FTT token and they were staking the FTT token to get money out of FTX. So listen to what he said about that.
A lot of people used FTT as collateral on FTX. I think it had real value. That being said, there are a few problems. One of which was, again, the position's bigger than I thought it was. That wasn't good. Second of all, was that, and this is fucking embarrassing that I got wrong. Given my background, I should not have been the one to get this wrong. I think FTT was basically more legit than most tokens in some ways. I think its value is more economically underpinned than the average, token was. That being said,
why do you feel that way?
Wrong. Because the buy and burn and shit. It's not just a token that does nothing. At least it does something, and there is some effectively cash flow that goes to it, and there is a utility for it, and I don't know, you can use your judgment on how much you think that's worth.
Yeah.
But
So he says, look, the reason why it was okay to leverage the FTT token was because there was some value to the token. What he also said he said, there is some cash flow to the token. And by doing that, essentially what he did was he admitted that the FTT token is actually a security. He said there's some cash flow and some utility to it. And one thing that you'll keep noticing here is that FTX, or that Sam Bankman-Fried, is talking against the advice of his lawyers. And this is saying I'm going to play you guys in a couple of seconds. But what you realize is that he's not being advised. And what lawyers always tell you, if you're in a bad situation, like you look at Alex Mashinsky, or you look at Do Kwon or whatever else, their lawyers have advised them, don't say anything, because anything that you do can and will be used against you. But he doesn't think like that. In fact, let me take you to that part, and then we'll come back to the other part. But at some point here, he talks about the fact that, doesn't really care what his lawyers are saying. Hold on a second. Let's just look at where it is. Okay, so it's about 1440. I have a couple of notes here, so let's just look at that. Okay, let's listen to this.
Again, either it was an ex-employee or someone installed malware on an ex-employee's computer. And I don't know for sure which of those it is, and I don't know for sure which one it is, because access is totally shut down right now, because it would be dangerous to allow people to query data. The lawyers chewed me the fuck out for that one. The first thing they said after that was, Sam, you have only one thing to tell you. You have to promise that you never, ever, ever say you fucked up again. I told them to go fuck themselves. I don't think they know what they're talking. I mean, whatever. They know what they're talking about in an extremely narrow domain of litigation. They don't understand the broader context of the world. Like, if you're a complete dick about everything, even if it narrowly avoids making moderately embarrassing statements, it's not helping anything.
So what his lawyer said to him, he said to him, Sam, you can never admit that you fucked up, because if you do, this canon will be held against you. And he thinks that he knows better than the lawyers. And so he's saying, look, well, you only know about law. Right now, the problem is you're in trouble with the law. And if you keep saying things like FTX is security, we'll go through a couple of other things, you're actually admitting that a whole lot of things which can land up costing it. As a result, what's happening is that his lawyers have started to drop him. So his first lawyer dropped him. Then his dad, who, by the way, is a lawyer or a law professor, dropped him. And then he hooked him up with two other lawyers, and they dropped him too. So it feels to me like he's in such trouble that he doesn't, that he's now starting to lose his lawyers. Now, that's always a very, very bad sign. He also alleges that he only has $100,000 left. So people asked him, how much money have you got left? He says he's down to $100,000. He lives in a $40 million mansion. He claims that he's down to $100,000, which is, again, absolute garbage. We can't believe it. I see Scott Melker's commenting, or someone who purports to be Scott. So that is that part of the interview. Okay, then he was asked. I want to.
Yes, there are places where it can slot into.
Let me get there for you guys.
No, he's trying.
Hold on. Wrong
That's the whole clip.
Wrong video. Yeah, let's go back to this video here. And I want to go to 5 minutes and 20 seconds over here. And I want you guys to listen to this.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Okay, hold on. Let's try that again.
It did have real value.
Okay.
Small amounts of sales of FTT totally crashed the price. Like, illiquidity wasn't what caused that crash. What caused the crash was something else, which is very embarrassing that I underestimated, which is the massive correlation of things during extreme market moves, especially when they're triggered by fear over the position itself and the massive size that those moves can be. And we've seen that again and again and again in finance, where, I mean, long-term capital, similar thing, where, like, you know, you have a bunch of positions which are correlated by virtue of all being held by the same entity. And in this specific scenario, where you have a crisis of confidence in that entity combined with a run on the bank and a total lack of liquidity and credit, where the crash can be extremely correlated between all those assets, extremely large and extremely fast.
Okay, so what he admits is, he admits that the reason why this whole FTX collapse happened was because of the correlation of the FTT token to all the other tokens. So he admits he was completely leveraged against the FTT tokens. And by doing that, what he's admitting is that Alameda, his holding company, took FTT tokens, staked them, and then accessed users' funds. And what he also admits is that this crash happened because the market went down, FTT went down, and because FTT went down, the leverage wasn't enough, and that caused the cycle of starting to sell. So he's made the mistake of completely admitting that he's accessed user funds using the FTT token, which is it's a huge no-no. All right, then he was asked about the US entity. So he was asked about the US entity. Let me take you to the US entity, because he claimed that the US entity was 100% solvent. Now, I don't know if he's delusional, on meth. I have no idea what's going on, but you need to hear this.
So FTX International was separate from FTX US, and you had stated that FTX US was solvent. So I was wondering why FTX US had to go to Chapter 11 as well.
Oh, yeah. It's a really good question. Well, you blame the fucking idiot you're talking to for actually filing this document. I was sort of coerced to doing it, but I should have just said no. I had that right. I probably would have been reported to everyone you could imagine for not doing it, but it would have been worth it because it's the right thing to do to not file. And like, I would give anything to unfile that right now.
You don't feel that FTX US should have filed for bankruptcy? And well, so if they are completely separate and FTX US was solvent, then would that mean that FTX customers would expect like a decent recovery? Just because I feel like all the numbers that have been floating around. Sorry?
FTX or FTX US?
US. Just because the only numbers I've seen floating around, like the Financial Times, the recovery looks pretty slim for.
That's very international.
Yeah.
US is 100%.
So he says that US is 100% backed, and he shouldn't have actually filed into. He calls himself an idiot. I think he said this fucking idiot for putting the US into liquidation. He says he shouldn't have, and that I kind of believe, because I don't think that he would have messed with the US. And I think a big telling sign we'll see whether he actually goes back into the US. This is the next part of this interview is another part of the interview that blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Now, this is the part where he was asked about whether he let Bahamian people withdraw funds before the liquidation, before they were put into Chapter 11. Listen to what he says.
Yes, and then the regulators or securities said that was not approved.
Yeah, I think I might have taken, I think, the right decision.
Wait, sorry?
It was, all right, so I ran it. I gave them a heads up, a one-day heads up that we were going to do it. They didn't say yes or no.
He gave them a one-day heads up that they were going to put the company into liquidation. And that was the period where they were only releasing withdrawals from people in the Bahamas.
They didn't respond, and then we did it. The reason I did it was it was critical to the exchange being able to have a future, because that's where I am right now. And you do not want to be in the country with a lot of angry people in it. And you do not want your company to be incorporated in a country with a lot of angry people in it. And so it was, realistically speaking, it's shitty. But like, yeah, the pathway forward for FTX involved Bahamians not being pissed at it.
I mean, just understand what he said then. He knew that FTX was going to be declared going into bankruptcy. And he knew that he was living in the Bahamas. And he knew that FTX was going to be incorporated, was going to be registered in the Bahamas. And he let everyone in the Bahamas, he gave them a heads up, and he told them, and he let them withdraw money before you could get your money out, or in place of you getting your money out. Why? Because he intends to stay in the Bahamas, and he doesn't want lawsuits in the Bahamas, and he doesn't want people hating him in the Bahamas, because he knows if he goes to the United States, something will happen to him. But in the Bahamas, the way he did it was he did it in such a way that people in the Bahamas would not attack him, and the regulators would probably have nothing to go after him because everyone in the Bahamas was made whole. And if you don't live in the Bahamas, well, it's very hard to go and sue someone in the Bahamas. That part absolutely blew my mind. Now, another part where I think that SBF is lying was he was asked about his donations to political parties. And he said that he actually donated an equal amount to both parties. But when it came to the Democrats, he announced it. And when it came to the Republicans, he decided to go silent. Crazy shit, but you just
donated to both parties. They donated about the same amount to both parties this year. That was not generally known because despite Citizens United being literally the highest profile Supreme Court case of the decade and the thing everyone talks about when they talk about campaign finance, for some reason, in practice, no one can possibly fathom the idea that someone in practice actually gave dark. So, I don't know.
So he said he gave to the Republicans and he gave dark to the Republicans. Now, I don't know if you believe that. I certainly don't believe that. And if you were going to give equally to both parties, why would you give the one party and make a big noise about it and go to the other party and not say anything at all? Just doesn't sound right. Now, remember there was another thing at the end of the FTX, or while FTX was going into liquidation, where there was a hacker. And so they asked SBF if he knew who the hacker was. And, was the hacker actually him? And he says, well, you listen to what he says. Let's go to 1420. That's where he talks about the hack.
I don't know exactly who, because they shut off all access to the systems when it's halfway through exploring it. I've narrowed it down to like 8 people. I don't know which one it was. But I have a pretty decent sense. I think it is, again, either it was an ex-employee or someone installed malware on an ex-employee's computer.
So it's either an ex-employee, he's narrowed it down to 4 people. I guarantee you he actually knows exactly who it is. Now, Later on in the interview, he actually believes that if he was in charge, everybody or most people would actually be made whole. Listen to this.
Okay. And by numbers, and like, then the saga ends, and I honest to God believe if I had filed for bankruptcy, all users would be whole and withdrawals would be on FTX right now. And not just US, international as well. And I might still get there. We'll see. I don't know. It might happen, it might not. But 8 fucking minutes after I filed for bankruptcy, 4 billion more came in of liquidity.
Are you able to add it to the estate?
I'm working on it, but the current trustees of the estate would rather burn it all to the ground out of shame and attempt to find a way to bring more value to customers. So right now I'm stuck in a jurisdictional battle between.
Basically what he's admitting here is he's admitting that if he was running it, he could probably have swindled more people into giving him money on this bankrupt, insolvent shell that he could probably have made customers whole. Basically what he's saying is he could have probably continued to run the scam if the liquidators didn't actually remove him. And he thinks that he could have made users whole. But then in the next part of the interview, he was asked, what do you think people are actually going to get back? And what do you think? And I remember he said that he thinks that American users could get 100% back, right?
On international, like.
Well, I mean, not nothing. Like, I think, sorry, that's not counting like just liquid assets that are there. I think if nothing happens, if I can never do anything again and they're left to their own devices, eventually US will get a penny on the penny, a dollar on the dollar once they get around to admitting that. And international will get, I don't know, 20, 25 cents on the dollar. So I don't know exactly what, something like that.
So he says US will get most of it and international will get 25 cents on the dollar. I guarantee you that's wrong. Right along the whole way, he hasn't got the numbers right once. I don't believe that he got the numbers right this time. So that was the first part of the video. That part you've seen, it's been on CoffeeZilla. But then there was a second part of the video, and I want to play you the second part of the video. And I want to start off playing the second part of the video over here, where he talks about how this whole thing actually happened. So let's quickly go there, and you guys can hear.
Crash in the spring that took 50% out of asset values, combined with a hyper-correlated crash scenario this month, in which simultaneously we saw a 50% decline in relevant asset prices over a 2-day period, combined with a complete run on the bank on FTX, combined with the fact that there is a margin position on FTX that was substantially larger than it appeared to be.
How large was it?
Because of, I thought it was billions. It was in fact billions more. And
so what he's admitting here, he's admitting, look, the reason why this happened was because there was a market crash and because we were leveraged and we just didn't expect the entire market to go down all at once. But hold on a second. Isn't a centralized exchange supposed to keep users' deposits separate? Didn't you in the FTX contract say that all user deposits would be separate and under the control of the users? He had no right to access user funds. And so a market collapse, if you deposit Bitcoin into an exchange and you want to withdraw your Bitcoin, the market price of Bitcoin doesn't really matter. It only matters if you've lent out money against it, which is something that was illegal and you probably shouldn't be doing. And he did it. And that's why this all happened. So again, he's admitting that he used customer funds for money, and that's fraud. And customer funds to take leverage. That's fraud. That's fraud. And I guess now he's not being represented. And so by doing this, he's really, really, really exposed himself of fraud. All right. So he continues and talks about the margin position. Very, very much worth listening to. Let's listen to it quickly.
Like it's a derivatives exchange. And that's sort of the norm, that there are open leverage futures margin positions. Alameda had a substantial one. It was in fact more substantial than I realized that it was. And then there was a extremely large hypercorrelated crash that tanked the value of its collateral, and meant that it was effectively not possible to get nearly enough liquidity.
So basically, he was over leveraged with your funds, and it was not possible to get enough liquidity, and that's what happened. And the worst thing is that he admits now that there was actually no one else in charge. There was actually there was no compliance officer or anybody actually looking after user funds.
Like person chiefly, like there was no single person who was chiefly in charge of monitoring the risk of margin positions on FTX. Like, there should have been, and there wasn't.
Yeah.
And
like, honestly, what the fuck? How do you have an exchange with tens of millions of users with billions of dollars? You don't even have a compliance officer. I don't know who to be more upset with. I don't know if I should be upset with him, and I am upset with him, or whether I should be upset with people that invested in him. Multicoin Capital, all the other funds, all the other big funds, Sequoia. How the fuck do you invest in an exchange without a compliance officer? I mean, do you not, when you invest in a bank, the first thing is you ask about the compliance of the bank. How do you invest in an exchange that's managing billions of dollars that doesn't even have a compliance officer? It's beyond me. And we should be cross with ourselves. We should be cross if we invested. Look, we never invested in FTX. We didn't touch it. We're lucky we didn't even give you guys a referral link for it. But how do you not have a compliance officer when you're managing so much money? It blows my mind. I'm so angry. I'm so angry because Bitcoin would be at $30,000 or $35,000 now if it wasn't for this FTX collapse. Anyway, he goes on to, sorry, I've got to calm down a bit. I'm starting to sound like BitBoy. It's a true story. He goes on to talk about the size of the hole. Listen to this.
There seems to be like an $8 billion hole. Is the $8 billion hole where there's just $8 billion of funds completely missing, or was that just based on some sort of poor investment decision?
So it's what it really is. And
I don't even know if $8 billion is correct. Is that correct?
Right. To my knowledge, as of when I last calculated this, there was a significant liquidity hole, which is, say, like, not enough ability to not enough dollars to fill with all, projected withdrawal requests. And that's because there are margin positions still open, substantial ones. And, there are funds collateralizing those. And so it's not.
Oh, hello?
Not a pure hole.
Oh, wait, sorry. You cut out for a second.
Mark.
The last thing I heard you say was there are funds collateralizing those, and then you cut out.
Collateralizing, those positions, and so it's not like there are no assets.
Mm-hmm.
There's big margin spread on, and
he says effectively what he's saying is it's fully backed.
Greater than liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
But well, that is in theory true. The assets are not that liquid and could not.
The assets are not that liquid. You cannot say that everything is fully backed because you're valuing altcoins at their fully diluted valuation when the tokens haven't come out. And that's exactly what he's doing. Absolutely, absolutely delusional. No, he was asked, what do you think would have happened if CZ didn't tweet? Do you think that you could have carried on? And really, if you interpret that question, what they're actually asking is, do you think that you could have continued scamming using user funds? Do you think that you could have continued scamming? That's pretty much what he was being asked. But she was much nicer to him than I was. And actually, now that I think about it, I actually better watch my mouth in this interview because, as I said to you, tomorrow I'm going to be on Mario's stream and I'm going to be right in front of Sam and asking a whole lot of tough questions. And I just hope that he doesn't watch this show and then back out. Say, listen, or say something like, hold on, Ran can't be on this. I'll do the spaces, but Ran can't be on the spaces. So I'm going to calm down a bit. But you know that I'm angry. You can feel it. But I'm going to calm down just a little bit, just in case.
Do you think that if CZ hadn't expressed concerns about FTX, then everything would be fine right now?
So, I think that basically I think there's open. So what would happen? There would have been risks. I think things, what would have happened in the end, I don't know for sure.
He would have carried on scamming. I know for sure. Someone says, Ran angry, lost money in FTX. Ran had no money in FTX. Ran told 2 million people to take their money out of FTX. 2 million people saw that tweet before FTX went insolvent. hopefully of those 2 million people, some of them were protected. Now, lastly, which is a question that I'm going to ask him tomorrow. He was asked by Tiffany, he was asked by her how he feels, whether he has any remorse.
It's different than I think what it feels like to other people.
What do you mean? Like, well, do you mean just in terms of responsibility, or?
I guess like. Honestly, right now I'm mostly focusing on what I can do and like where it can be helpful, and like, you know, there'll be a time and a place for ruminating on my future, but right now it's more one foot in front of the other, and you know, trying to be as helpful and constructive as I can, and that's all I can do for now. And
you know, I'm going to ask him some really tough questions tomorrow. One of the questions I'm going to ask him is, I know that every child, every son, every daughter wants to make their parents proud, and his parents have got a whole lot of attention. They've got the wrong attention. I wonder how he feels about the way that his family feels about him now. I wonder how he feels about being the biggest scammer in history and having his parents in the limelight about all of this. And that's one of the questions that I'm going to ask him. That's, again, if I'm allowed on the stream, because maybe I've taken it too far this stream. Anyway, if I'm allowed on the stream, then remember that tomorrow, go to Mario's Twitter, follow Mario. Mario's just an all-around good guy, and he's doing good work for this space. So just go and follow him, give him some love. Tomorrow, join the stream. It's going to be the biggest public appearance it's the biggest, I think it's going to be the biggest crypto stream ever done. We're going to broadcast it live here for you. Mario's going to be live. Everybody's going to be live on this thing. I also saw, actually, funny enough, the mainstream media, I mean, they have fucked this thing up royally, like royally. I saw this. So Forbes did the top 30 under 30, you know, like they do 30 under 30, the top 30 people under 30. They released this yesterday, I think. And I mean, look who's still in the top 30 under 30. Fraudsters, scammers are in the top 30 under 30. Caroline Ellison and Sam Trabucco are in the top 30 under 30. I mean, how bad are mainstream media? Like, listen, I get bad, but this is like beyond bad. This is like this is, can you believe it? This is absolutely embarrassing. Really embarrassing. All right, let's look at some other news quickly. Sorry about that. Someone says, why is Ran not on that list? I'm not on that list because I'm clearly not under 30. Actually, funny enough, I was actually phoned by Forbes. They wanted to put me in the top 40 under 40. I'm fucking older than 40, bro. So it's a bit of a problem. That's why I'm going. I said I'm over 40, but if you want me on over 40, then I'll go. No problem. Why are you laughing? It's true. All right, let's look at some other news, some other alpha. I've got some other alpha for you. The first bit of alpha for you is, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but very quietly in the background, Uniswap launched an NFT marketplace. And I think that this has got a good opportunity to take on OpenSea. So it's now live. I've seen some screenshots of it. I think it's good. You need to look at this. Next bit of news, very bad news for anyone who owns nightclubs. But if you're going to nightclubs, it's actually good news, because your tables become a whole lot cheaper, especially if you're going into Miami nightclubs. So there's a nightclub in Miami called 11. I don't know if you've been there. If you've been there, you know exactly what kind of nightclub 11 is. And if you want like a first-hand report of what 11 is like, I'm going to bring on Raymond. Ray, tell us about the nightclub called 11.
It's a place you want to be. You'll have a great time. Show up with your wallet for sure, or your bank account, or your Bitcoin. It's going to be
all right. Yeah, if you go there, it's very expensive, and there's a lot of women, and you know what it's like. Anyway, long story short, they used to process $660,000 per month in crypto transactions. Now they're processing $3,000 a month in crypto transactions. That a lot of that has got to do with Suzu not being in Miami anymore. So that's the next bit of alpha for you. A lot of FUD around BNB token. Dylan Leclerc jumping in. I'm not buying it, but got to report on it. Yesterday, GMX did more daily fees than Uniswap for the first time, which is huge. We've been telling you guys to buy GMX. In fact, let's quickly look at the price of GMX. I know it's one of the tokens on my watch list. Let's quickly look at GMX. So there's GNS Gains is doing amazingly well. Congratulations to anyone who took that took that trade. Let's quickly look at GMX. I know it's somewhere here because 46.12. Great. Excellent move. Congratulations to anybody that got into that. You can see from a fundamental point of view, it's absolutely pumping. Yesterday, it did more fees than Uniswap. Today, it's almost on par with Uniswap, and it's the third highest generating fee protocol. And on the 7-day average, okay, so it's going up and up and up. It's on the move up. I still think that this is a great protocol to invest in. Another one which I think is worth investing in if you're in for the long term. I don't think it's going to jump because not one of these tokens that gets hyped up. But if you look at Injective, their tokenomics burn 7% of the circulating supply, which is great. Usually tokenomics are very inflationary. Injective is burning about 7% of their circulating supply. It's real. We verified this. I verified it when I looked at this tweet. We're also investors in Injective. So I think that's another good one to be watching. Animoca Brands launching another $2 billion metaverse funds. These guys just ain't stopping. They just ain't stopping. So I think, what the fuck? Who made this? Why is this because of the soccer bet today?
I think it's
what is that, and why is it on the screen? And why is it on Twitter?
Baguette.
Why? But why am I holding a baguette? It's because of the shirt.
Of course.
For fuck's sake. I'm gonna burn the shirt. I'm gonna burn this shirt, bro.
I can't believe that took you so long.
I'm gonna burn. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna burn this shirt. We will see you guys again later. We will be streaming the event live. It's 1 o'clock in the morning my time, and I will be here. So I will be. Get that thing off the screen. God's sake. And I'll, you know what I'll do? You know what? Let's auction the shirt. Who wants to buy the shirt? Let's start taking bids. The highest bidder, I will mail you the shirt. Let's go in the comments. Highest bidder gets the shirt. Do I have $10? Do I have $5? Okay, I got 10 Rand, which is about 80 cents. $10. Okay, I've got $10 from Bruman. I got $10 from Bruman. I got $9.95 from Vatsal. No, you're right. You got a bit higher. No, come on, guys. 50 cents. I got $20 from Shamil. Shamil's got $20 for the shirt. Vincent got $20 for the shirt. Surely there's some French people watching the show. $50 from Muhammad Al Ramahi. $74 from Muhammad Al Ramahi. Oh, hold on, I got wait, $100 from Josh ZA. $100.
That's in South Africa.
And he's in South Africa.
You should steal that. No shipping costs.
Okay, $100. If I get $150, I will sell the shirt without putting it in the washing machine. Straight off my body. Oh, Amar's got $150 for the shirt without it being in the washing. I'll see you guys again later. Till then, have some fun. Trade well, my friends. Put the baguette thing up. What the fuck?
Yo, somebody put 1,000. Somebody put 1K.
That's not cool.